Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me. I am here because it's Sunday. And if it's Sunday, it must be time for a long overdue movie review. Now, thanks in part to HBO Max and our boy Trey, I just recently, literally 30 seconds ago, just finished watching Down and Out in Beverly Hills, starring Richard Dreyfuss and Bette Midler and a couple other people. A couple things to note here. A couple of Seinfeld guest stars in Bette Midler, who played herself, and the daughter, who is an actress, and I've seen her in a couple of different things, but I most know her as the female Jerry. Do you remember this Seinfeld episode where his girlfriend kept looking and sounding and starting to morph into him? Not Jerry, George's girlfriend. She dated George and slowly turned into Jerry. Like, she got gum in her hair and cut her hair short and looked like, yeah, that's her. That's her right there. And Nick Nolte. This movie is a big bowl of fluff. I don't know what to say non-spoilery before we get to the spoiler edition, really. Other than it's very 80s. This was 1986, and it looks it. It's very 80s. Nice cameo. Not even a cameo. He's in a couple of scenes by Little Richard. Because you know Little Richard don't get no respect. He don't get nothing. He don't get nothing. That was a terrible Little Richard impression. But I'm afraid of going too high in the register. It is late at night as I'm recording this, and I don't want to get too loud with the Little Richard impression. I don't know where to go that's not spoiler related. So we're just gonna so as far as the story is concerned, it's a light story, one that at this point I've seen a couple of different times in a couple of different aspects of life. It tries to have a moral in the 2021 lens. I don't know if it really hits the moral at all. I think it just kind of happens, and it's very 80s-y in how it all wraps up, just because we've reached the 143-minute mark, apparently, in the movie. So it wraps up because it's time to wrap up, not necessarily because we actually get a conclusion or a resolution or, really a tidy bow to it. And it's not trying to do this avant-garde thing where, life doesn't have a tidy bow. It's trying to have a tidy bow because it's the fucking mid-80s. And it's a feel-good, whatever, comedy. And we get there because we get there, not necessarily because there's anything to get to. With that said, we're going to go into the spoiler territory. So before I have my customary sip of what is today Bacardi and the last of the Coke Zero, I will take this sip before we dip into spoiler territory. So prepare yourselves, mofos. We're going to talk all about this shit until you get to the time mark. I'm kind of over Coke Zero. I can't wait to get rid of this shit. It does not taste particularly good. All right, we're in spoiler territory now. This is the story of Nick Nolte and his magical, mystical penis. This is all about Nick Nolte's fantastic, apparently, penis. Richard Dreyfuss is unsatisfied in his world of being a hanger mogul in Beverly Hills. Yes, hangers. Is it the thing you put your clothes on? It actually reminded me to hang my shirts up that I just washed today. He's not satisfied in his life. Bette Midler, his wife, she hasn't had any kind of sexual feelings towards him in a long time. He's creeping downstairs to the maid, played by Elizabeth Pena, who is top notch in this. His son is an artsy guy, and despite it being Los Angeles, it's still the 80s. This movie still has to reach the Midwest. Richard Dreyfuss, not so into him being super artsy. and his daughter goes off to college, and he's not happy with his life because it's not the idealistic life that he wanted. Everybody's just kind of spoiled in their richness. Nick Nolte loses his dog. He loses his dog. His dog he's a homeless guy. And his dog just one day decides, I'm tired of this shit, and just runs off. And he wakes up and his dog's gone. He's looking for his dog, can't find his dog. So he decides he wants to put rocks in his pocket, and because he's looking for his dog, and he makes his way to Richard Dreyfuss's pool. He puts rocks in his pockets because he's like, fuck it, I'm done with this shit. And he decides he wants to kill himself by drowning himself in the pool. Now, I was thinking about this, and I was like, I wonder if in that moment of panic, I wonder if because time is so condensed and, for the amount of air that you have, I wonder in that moment of panic if the rocks in your pocket actually do prevent you from escaping. Because they're like little stones around, like little pebbles around the pool. I like this giant rock that he's got tied to himself, and he got to unleash the tie. Like, he could essentially just kind of take off his coat, if he's in the moment of panic, or start fishing out the rocks. If in that moment of panic when his body is finally telling him, nope, you did the wrong thing, we regret this entirely, live, damn you, live. But it's a light comedy, supposed to be a light comedy. Richard Dreyfuss finds him, pulls him out, and says, you can stay with us, pal, because he's thinking that Nick Nolte will change his life, and Nick Nolte does. By, wooing all the people in Richard Dreyfuss's life. By the way, this is the first of a couple of Richard Dreyfuss movies where he's got a guest that soon becomes unwelcome. The other one is What About Bob? And I'm looking forward to reviewing that one with our boy Bill Murray. But Nick Nolte first woos Richard Dreyfuss's wife, Bette Midler, by giving her a massage, a rearrangement, spinal alignment. She has an orgasm from it, so his mystical, magical dick works there. His daughter comes back from college, and she broke up with her boyfriend, and she tells him, you're not going to fool me like you fooled my parents, and he kisses her. They don't specify whether they actually fucked or not. He just gets up and kisses her, and his magical dick fixed the day there, too. The maid, she's seemingly satisfied with Richard Dreyfuss, and then Nick Nolte gives her some books on the Revolution and proletariat and fight the power and all other shit. She starts to get revolutionized, and this is after a night where seemingly Nick Nolte goes into her room and fucks the daylights out of her, basically in front of cucking Richard Dreyfuss, kind of twice, but not really, because he doesn't actually have sex with the mother, with Bette Midler, and we don't know if he has sex with the daughter, but it's pretty well assumed that he has sex with Elizabeth Pena, and bang, bang, boom, Nick Nolte's magical dick saves the day one more time. A neighbor boy looks over the fence, and Nick Nolte's in the pool, and the neighbor boy, I think, is enamored with him, as in love with him. He's, she's figuring out sexuality or whatever. They don't specify that. He just has a conversation with them. Hey, how you doing? Here's an apple. And because of that little friendship, he makes a friend and gets a couple $100 from the neighbor boy's parents, who are like, nobody's ever been nice to my son since he got here to Beverly Hills in 1986. So Nick Nolte's mystical magical dick fixes the day again. Wow, amazing. Richard Dreyfuss this whole time, he's the only one that seems to try to take a warming to Nick Nolte's character until everybody does, and then he isn't happy that everybody does. Then Richard Dreyfuss has a party. He thinks that the whole chase is because he at least thinks that Nick Nolte fucked his daughter. But again, they're never really clear about that. Like, they kind of allude to it, but they're never really clear. Like, it could just be the kiss got her all flutter, and she's a young, stupid college student and doesn't understand the difference between what real love is or whatever. Who knows? But he chases Nick Nolte around. They end up in the pool. The big shebang-a-bang happens there, where he tries to drown him. The next day, they all awaken. And Little Richard plays at the party, too. And they all, get up, and he's like, I'm so sick of this shit, and you've been the bane of my existence. And Nick Nolte starts to walk away. The dog is become enamored with him, too. And the dog starts walking off with him. Because the dog doesn't want to leave him. Everybody else is like, oh, well, the party was a wreck, and blah, 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 blah. So Nick Nolte starts to walk off. He gets his pate. He's been changed by the whole experience too. He was a bum before. Now he's had actual food and clothes and showers and all other stuff. It's easy to get acclimated to this shit. And that turnaround is a motherfucker. Trust me. I've done it more than once. That turnaround's a motherfucker. So he goes off. He finds the pate in the trash. He starts to try to eat it. And he can't bring himself to eat it. Meanwhile, the family is looking at him longingly in the alley like, come on, back. And he goes on back. And so they continue their adventures in an ill-fated pilot that hits the airwaves, I think, a year or two later. The resolution was, we need him to have a home at the end. The conflict was hard to really distinguish, because Nick Nolte doesn't really do anything bad. He doesn't really do anything wrong. Richard Dreyfuss kind of takes it bad that everybody else in his family likes him, even though he wanted everybody else in the family to like him. And he fixes everybody's problems. Now, it turns out he's lying about the problems, but they don't really get across that he can think fast on his feet either. So you kind of just assume that all this stuff is true until the end when he confesses that it's not. So they don't even have that 1980s, Ferris Bueller style cool guy getting away with lying and scamming his way through some shit, that you're along for the ride, that that's happening so you can be along with the ride so you can relate to or like this character or whatever. They don't really do that. You kind of feel bad for him, or you do feel bad for him because he's homeless and he's in this predicament, but you don't necessarily associate yourself in his character, Richard Dreyfuss's character. All the Beverly Hills people are kind of, the worst. They're kind of the fucking worst. Bette Midler's in the new age shit, which now is all over the place. Who knew her character was ahead of her time? But super new age shit, and just the vapid Beverly Hills housewife prototype that you would see in a movie or TV show like this. The son could have been played by anybody. It's kind of aimless. The way they either wrote and or directed it and or was acted. The tone was fine. This used to play a lot here locally on Channel 5, KTLA. And I can see why. You could throw it on in the background and not really think too much about it, think too hard about it. You could throw some commercials in there and you won't lose too much of the plot. It's not a big transfer from what we see here, even though it's rated R. It's probably just for language. Because there wasn't really any sex in it. There were scenes where he's adjusting Bette Midler's back and it seems sexual because she has an orgasm and she says the word orgasm. So maybe in 1986, a woman saying orgasm on screen, R, hard R, what is that? That's for women don't have those. I don't understand. 1986 MPAA, which isn't much different from the 2021 MPAA, but fuck it. I could see how this could get by. I could see how this could end up in syndication. I could see how this could end up on TVs all over the place. I'd seen the title so much. And this is one of the KTLA movies I never actually caught, ironically enough. I used to catch Born in East LA all the time. I would never miss Born in East LA. I would catch Mary Poppins every year around Christmas. Never miss it. So there were a couple. RoboCop. Never missed RoboCop. And some of the cheesy made-for-TV super dramas In the Name of the Children. No, that was ABC. But all the missing children ones, all the or abusive husband ones that popped up on Channel 5 too. I watched those for some reason. There are some that I would never miss. And this one I just Once Bitten. I loved Once Bitten. I would love to do an actual breakdown of Once Bitten. But Down and Out in Beverly Hills, I don't know. Troop Beverly Hills. I always saw Troop Beverly Hills. But Down and Out, I never saw it somehow. For whatever reason, I never saw it until now. And fine, whatever. I don't see myself watching this again. It's on HBO Max. There's nothing in it that's particularly quotable. There's no scenes in it that are particularly memorable or particularly laugh out loud funny or, the era is definitely 80s because it was shot in probably 1985. But it's not, it's not necessarily super memorable. Other than the title's the most memorable part. And the fact that they had a failed sitcom that they thought they could turn this into a sitcom. That they thought that they had enough likable characters to make this into a sitcom is ridiculous. Out of $15, Down and Out in Beverly Hills is worth... I reviewed another movie earlier. Now, mind you, that was a suspense, thriller, drama. This is a comedy. Different markers. I could take this or leave it. Honestly, I'm gonna go. This is the theme for the week. I'm gonna go $9.50 again. I'm gonna go $9.50 again, and again, that's being generous. Again, if I wanted to be greedy, I would say maybe $9 because it's fine. It's background. It's fine. It's a little bit better than average. Like, the production is fine. The production is good. The acting with the material that they get is fine. Nick Nolte seems to not really be acting here. He just kind of, and little will we know, but he just kind of seems to just be reading lines, just kind of going through his shit. Richard Dreyfuss is doing Richard Dreyfuss. Bette Midler's doing Bette Midler. Little Richard is doing Little Richard. Like, it's fine for what it is. It's not terrible. It's not great. The more I talk about it, I'm going to chop that down to 9. It's funny how this works. A lot of times, the more I talk about it, the lower the number gets. And this is one of those experiences. I'm going to chop it down to an even 9 out of $15. It's there. It's fine. It's whatever. It ain't nothing to write home about. It ain't nothing one way or the other. It's not particularly great or terrible. It's there. It exists. And in 1986, if you had $8 to spend, you'd probably spend the $8 on it and not miss the $8 too terribly. And you got some great movies coming out, later that year and a couple years later. So and it's only in $5-8 or whatever. If it's a $3 theater. I don't even. It's probably at that point $1 theaters. You catch it there. Like, syndication is probably where you would see it. Again, I'm not mad at it because I'm watching it on HBO Max and not paying actual $15 for it. So it's somewhere that lower tier. Like, there's that mid to lower tier. You know what I mean? Like, it ain't great, and I'm gonna see more. The more I think about it, the more that number seems to fit a little bit less as I'm talking. So I'm gonna leave it at $8.50 out of $15 and cut it right then and there. Party people! How right? How wrong? I'm not wrong. How right am I? Your favorite YouTuber? Let me know down there in the comments section. Like and share, like and share, like and share. Every Thursday, me and my homeboy Trey, we do a podcast. It's called the How Do We Even Get Here podcast. We need that Joe Rogan money. I'm so sick. Our podcast is way better than our audience number shows. The problem is people ain't sharing the shit. I need you to share the shit. I just need you to share the shit. Like, that's the easiest shit in the world. The stuff that you actually like, fucking like button, yeah, it's fantastic, helps the algorithm. But share the shit too. Tell other people about the shit too. Please and thank you. Please don't keep us a secret. Please, come on. This channel and the How Do We Even Get Here podcast, you can do it. I know you can. I believe in you. And in the meantime, the in-between time, cheers.
Turn it back and I'm making sure my night's straight. And when you're out of town, I'll be making sure your wife's straight.